Hi, I'm Jamie Carragher, and you are listening to Across the Park podcast.
Welcome to Across the Park podcast, the only place you can hear banter and debate from both sides of Stanley Park, whether it be blue or red. Sponsored by Their Clothing, Camper Kings UK, and affiliation with BetMate. Hello and welcome to the penultimate episode of the season 21-22 of Across the Park podcast. We're just going to react quite instantly to a massive week for both clubs, blue and red. It's going to be a bumper show. Myself here, Mills, and Andrew Pricey, the Evertonians. I'll take a bit of a back seat on this one because you see Phil's flying solo. I'd like to think the Reds are just absolutely gutted, but I think Phil's got the router and he's still quite proud of the season. We're going to get into all of that. Before we do, big thanks as always to our amazing sponsors over at Camper Kings UK. It is the season, like I always say, every season, it is the season to camper van, especially now with the light nights and the light mornings. School holidays coming up. Great for families, great for cheeky girls' weekends, definitely great for boys' weekends. Great just to get out and explore. Get over to Camper Kings website, Camper Kings UK. Make sure you quote Across the Park podcast, and what they will do is they'll give you some free insurance and they'll throw in a bottle of bubbly on the boys at Across the Park. Big thanks to them as always. And as always, again, our other sponsors, VIR Clothing, Their Clothing. Kitting the boys out as always. I'm rocking my tree there right now. I've been in the office today and I look cool as a cucumber, if I do say so myself. The menswear over there is fantastic. If you do pick a few blazers, a few shoes, t-shirts and jeans, so make sure you put in checkout ATP20 and that will magically give you, guessed it right, 20% off. Shout out as always to BetMate as well, our affiliates over at BetMate. We'll be talking more about BetMate next season. But firstly, let's get into it, Phil. With the Reds, you did do an instant match reaction and you sort of, it was very raw. I watched it. You talked a little bit about the game before. You all seemed quite proud of what Liverpool have done up to now. We all know what's going to happen on Saturday, Pricey, don't we? We all know what's going to happen, so that's still to come. But if you concentrate on Phil, a domestic season for now, I don't think you could have ran City much closer, could you?
No, we took it to what was it? The last 10 minutes of the season, clawed back a massive points deficit, and it was a weird one yesterday because most people thought or knew that Man City were going to go and turn Villa over. It was just how it unfolded, wasn't it? When Villa went 2-0 up, 1-0 up, it was like, oh my God. And then 2-0. But it was weird. I was in the church watching it with a couple of the lads. And
the church pub or an actual church?
No, the church pub, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I share my season ticket, my mate had it. So, but when the Villa score got announced, there was loads of people cheered, but I didn't. We weren't even winning our game. I was like, oh my God, this is possible now. But I felt sick. I almost didn't want it to happen. It was like too early that Villa took their lead and then they scored again. You start thinking, oh my God, this is on. This is, it's on. But, at no point at all yesterday were we winning the league. We were never winning the league at any point. And I think that could have made a difference if we would have been able to do that. Because news filters through, doesn't it? Oh, Liverpool are winning. We're getting beat. And maybe that pressure changes things. And that's my biggest regret about yesterday. Although we got the match won, our winning goals came quite late. And it became too late to put pressure on City, really. But
Klopp said that, didn't he? Klopp said in his post-match he would have loved to have been he would have loved City to have been 5-0 up in the first 40 minutes. So I imagine as a Red, it's probably the worst way it could have went yesterday. What have we told you as Blues? It's the hope that kills you.
It's the hope that kills you, yeah. But they say in life, the journey is more important than the destination, and I'm not sure that translates to football. But putting so many points on the board means that we've had a great time supporting Liverpool this year. Like week after week, we've been winning games, and they made us believe until the last 5 minutes of the season. So it's been a very enjoyable season as a supporter, and when he didn't get over the line, there's a shared emotion of the fans of just almost feeling sorry for the players. I mean, what an era that we're in. We've posted over 90 points on 3 separate occasions and only won the league once. Only in this little era with Man City would that ever have happened. So, and I think over the course of 4 seasons, we've actually got more points than City.
Best titles, though.
What's that? Best titles. That's what I'm saying, yeah.
We've got more points than City.
I'm not claiming it as some sort of victory, but that's what I'm saying. It's mad. It's so incredibly hard to win these titles these days. It's like a knockout competition in the Premier League now. It's like we've lost twice, and twice was too much.
Look, I honestly understand the positivity, and everything you say there is right. The amount of games that you've won, the amount of great weekends you've had, you know what I mean? There's clubs out there. I'd love to go and watch Everton win every single week, and what you've done this year with Liverpool. But if you look at the cold light today now, what is the reason that Liverpool aren't champions? Because it can't just be as simple as Manchester City are better, because you look at the FA Cup semi-final. If you go in the weeds a little bit, you look at games that you didn't win, West Ham away, and then Tottenham at home. Is there a specific couple of reasons for you why you haven't won the league this season?
Well, ultimately, it's been too many draws. I think there might have been, I'm not sure, actually 8 or 9 draws. And I think it's come down, obviously it's come down to that, but, you know, City have slipped up along the way as well. But last year, I think it was to do with head-to-heads with City. But this year, we drew with City in both games, but City beat Chelsea and we couldn't beat Chelsea. So you could look at it like that was it. But you can point to any game and say it was that game, couldn't you? But ultimately, there's too many draws, and Man City are just an incredible team, aren't they? They're just an incredible team.
Yeah, I think all joking aside, I think you're right. Like the two of the best teams you've seen for years, and it is. I know what you're saying there. If we'd have beat them and we haven't drew there, but I do think it comes down to the fact how good Man City are. They're just a class apart. I know you have had a good success against them in the FA Cup or whatever it was in the semi-final, but I just think they're just slightly better than you, and that's what it comes down to. It might only be a point better than you, but I do think that. I'm not joking there. I think that's what it comes down to, is that there's just a team that are just better than you, and I don't mean miles better than you. I mean just about
fine margins kind of thing.
Yeah, fine margins. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, fine margins. It's not because you've done anything wrong, is what I'm trying to say. It's just because they've done better.
Yeah, in the league they have, yeah. But don't forget, we've won every other trophy that they've been in for. We've beat us in one.
Now, aren't we?
Yeah, but if you're going to talk about who's better, then I think it's up for debate. But what I will agree to, without doubt, is that they've probably, as the squads go, we've got decent depth, but it's certainly in midfield, as the squads go deeper, they've got the better quality. And was it Gundogan who scored for them? I didn't even want to watch. I haven't seen any of their game or not, and not interested in looking back on that. But I believe he come on quite late and turned the game around.
Scored 2. Yes, they scored 3 in 5 minutes. Tag you in, Pricey. What were you feeling? I'm not going to lie, I was on my knees when Coutinho scored. I was thinking it's happening. The script, the musical is being written. That in hell itself, that Coutinho scored and Liverpool would have won the league. What were you thinking? Were you a bit like me, or? Yeah,
because when Villa went 2-0 up, you just knew Liverpool were going to win. That was always going to happen. It was Liverpool not winning that game yesterday, so it did come down to whether City could pull it back. And I'll be honest, I turned it off when it was 2-0. As soon as Villa scored the second, I turned it off because I couldn't even be bothered.
What minute did Villa score their second?
Second half.
It was. I'll try and find it now. I was watching this.
At that point, I believe Villa decided to sit back, and I've heard people blaming Gerrard for that, but freaking hell, you couldn't ask them to do a better job really than what they done yesterday. But they've sat back and City have scored 3 in 5 minutes.
I think just the desperation of City that once they got the first one, the crowd and that. I mean, I've watched it back. I know I turned it off, but I watched it. It was similar to I know it was completely different than Everton's situation, but when you get one and then you're going again, and then the crowd's on, you're like up for it, and then they had a bit of a momentum going. And I think Villa were just a bit sucker punched and couldn't recover it, and then that's how it happened. I don't think it was a case of Villa. I mean, I might be wrong, but Villa purposely sitting back and trying to park the bus right like that. I think it was just City attacked them and got that goal.
Just to answer that, Phil, about the minutes. So the minutes of the goals, So City scored in the 37th minute, so quite late in the first half. Then he scored a second in the 69th minute.
Villa.
And with, and with Pricey, I turned it off at that point. I put, because all the commentary on that game was like, Liverpool still need to score. So I then turned your game on, and then literally within a few minutes' time, goal flash came up saying 2-2. So City scored in the 76th, the 78th, and the 81st minute, 3 goals in 5 minutes.
So we were 9 minutes away from winning the league. And when they went 2-2 up, in my heart of hearts, I thought, City, they're going to struggle to get 3 now. I thought they could get 2, but I don't fancy them to score 3. But I wasn't sure we were going to win. Like, you just sort of, you used to it, and I know what you mean when you say that, because I always think, City, they always win. So you thought, you were confident Liverpool were going to win, but I wasn't really. I was thinking, oh my God, we're going to blow this. City going to lose, and we're going to blow. That would have been possibly the worst way to lose the league.
Yeah.
But we did score, and the rest is history. But do you know what? Afterwards, there was like 30 minutes of like everyone was sick, gutted, no one was talking. It was heavy, but after that, people started saying, "Come on, we go again next week. We've got the Champions League final. What a season we've had. Proud of the lads." And then the tunes come on then. One Kiss, Do a Lipper and all that. And everyone started getting a little bit more upbeat. And by the end of it, we were all singing and chanting and stuff like that. And I felt much better by the end of the night.
It's okay. I just say, you can't fault the players, can you?
No.
It's not like he's disappointed in them. Does it mean, is there more pressure on Saturday now, though?
Yeah, obviously there is, isn't there? And we've lost Thiago yesterday. Don't know if you're aware of that. He's not fit for the Champions League now.
Oh no, you should win that now, shouldn't you?
But Fabinho didn't play yesterday. The talk is he will be available, but I don't know if we're going to come on to talk about the Champions League later. But just while we brought it up, then for me, when Fabinho's been out, he's a slow starter to get back up to speed again. But he hasn't been out that long, though. So, but problems going into it as well on the injury list.
This is a weird question, but I'm asking this because I've seen it on our socials. I manned our socials yesterday, so it was both sides of the park, and a lot of Liverpool fans, and it seemed very, very genuine. We're gutted that Origi was injured because they wanted to give Origi the send off. Are you feeling that, or?
Absolutely, yeah. I wanted us, to be able to be in a position where we could bring him on for the last 10 or something like that and give him that send off, because the moments, Champions League final goals, big derby goals, the Barcelona goal, what a guy. And if he'd have been the man who won the league for us yesterday, literally there'd be a statue up and no one was arguing about it. So yeah, I was good. When we heard he'd got a minor injury strain, it was disappointing, but he's probably not the only, he's the only person who's confirmed he's going. I think he's going to AC Milan and it's all done. But there will have been other players there yesterday who be there last game as well. So, I think there was a good send-off at the end as well for that reason.
Yeah, but we asked for some questions on our socials. A couple of Liverpool ones came in, Phil, someone called JP. And it's a very simple question, but I imagine it's got lots of depth in the answer. It basically says, how do we not let this happen again and go back to 2 years ago where we blew everybody away?
Well, the thing about 2 years ago was City dropped off, didn't he? I think we were comfortable. I think they had a nightmare over Christmas or something. So we've done nothing wrong. There's not much difference between. In fact, we've got 97 points one season and didn't win the league. With the league, the season we won, it was with less than 97. So it's not about us really. It's about City. But how can we be better? Is the question. And I think we need more depth in the midfield for me. We've got a great Thiago, Henderson, and Fabinho, brilliant. But beyond that, you bring a Milner on, who's been awesome in the last 3-4 games. So no knock on him, but 37, it is what it is. And then after that, you're struggling then, aren't you? You're looking for like Keita and Chamberlain and stuff, and the quality, Jones. There's a big drop off in the quality, so that does not happen to City. They do not have to suffer that drop off.
You know what? I'll link. Sorry, Pace. Follow your second one. You can. Sorry, that.
I was going to say, do you think you will? Do you think that what Liverpool will do is sign a marquee, if you like, signing a centre midfielder in the summer? Because you usually only sign one or two in the summer. It's usually a big signing.
Yeah, we're linked with a French lad. And I don't know much about him except for he plays.
I can tell. I don't even know his name.
No, I don't know. He's got a mad name. But what I do know is that he plays with Fabregas, and Fabregas raves on him. He said, like, this kid's going to be unbelievable. He's a combative midfielder. Liverpool fans will have seen a link and they'll understand why. I can't remember what his name is, but
I think I've seen it because on Chelsea linked as well. The same player. He's highly regarded. Yeah.
There's a lot of talk about him coming to Liverpool, though. So, you know, we'll be definitely in the market for someone like that, but for sure. Yeah, and I think a few players are going to go pricey, so I think we're going to have to replace them. We certainly need the depth. And just think about it next season. We're now going to be in, if we win the Champions League, we're then going to be in like the Super Cup, the World Club Cup. You've got the World Cup coming as well, meaning the season finishes earlier, or starts earlier. So it's going to be a heavy season, the next one. We certainly need that depth and the quality and depth.
Another question came in, and it's from AJ on Twitter as well, and it's sort of linked to that. He started off with a bit of banter, which is always welcome on here. And he's basically said, despite the blue conspiracy theories, do the Reds think there was too many miles on a number of our players' legs this season?
Well, it's par for the course when you're successful, isn't it? You have to accept that. The City players have got a lot of miles on their legs, but, you know, have fine airs between, you know, it was 1 point. Maybe it comes down to they've got a bit more. I'm repeating myself, but in terms of that fatigue, they've got that little bit more depth in midfield. I can't say it for defence and the forwards. We've got amazing forwards and a lot of them. So for me, the midfield depth is being the issue. So in terms of the mileage, they're not able to rotate enough, and they're all a little bit injury prone as well. So yeah, it's a lot of games, and I think you can see tired legs on the pitch, but still winning games, though, aren't we? So you can't really say it's too much of an issue. And if you go all the way, then that's what you want. You want to happen. So
fair enough. All right, we're going to tag Phil and tag the Reds out. Phil has got a bit of an announcement later on about what Champions League show that the Reds are doing. It's going to be quite exciting for the Reds, I imagine. Some big ideas from the Red side. Pricey, I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't really watch Everton's game yesterday, so I don't want to talk too much about it. Plus, we got beat 5-1, so that's not going to bring us any viewers. What I do want to talk about is you weren't on the instant match reaction, so you haven't really give this podcast your thoughts on what we've probably been worried sick about for a number of weeks. I think me and you are the same in saying that when the weekends we played Chelsea and Burnley got a result at Watford was really, really, really dicey. It was panic stations for us, wasn't it? So what's your reaction now that the season's over? And, you know, you don't get a trophy for 16th, but I'd have snapped your hands off 6 weeks ago for 16th.
It's just the main thing for me is just that it can't happen again. I think that's the biggest thing I'm thinking of is what can we do for this not to happen again? I mean, obviously seeing the match, you see all the comments on social media and on the news and everything about Everton celebrating finishing 16th, and you know, we acting like it was a celebration. It was a celebration but it was relief. It was a celebration of the fact that we can kick on and when we're not stuck. I mean, we spoke about it on the day of the Palace game about going into the Championship and what that would mean for us. Yeah. And it's a celebration of that, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. We're not celebrating with 16th in the fact that that's where we wanted to be, and at the start of the season we were aiming for 16th. But when you're faced with being in the relegation zone and you're one of three teams who could potentially go down, and of course you're going to celebrate staying up, and that's the way I feel about it. I felt like it was a celebration of staying up, and rightly so, because that was Lampard's, that's what he's brought in to do is to keep us in the league at the end of the day, and he's done it. And you can, people are saying, well, you started 16th when he first came in, and you're still 16th, and that's right. That might be the case, but it's the non-tangible stuff. It's the feeling that he's created at Goodison. It's the fact that the fans are back on side. It's the fact that there's a I don't know, just a sense of wanting to go the game again and enjoying the game and looking forward to seeing Everton again, even though we were down there. So yeah, it is a celebration of the fact that we've got our club back. It feels like to a certain extent, especially considering how we were under Benitez at the start of the season and how horribly wrong it went over Christmas as well, and the protests and all that. So my feeling is just I'm made up that there's a connection there again. I want us to have a decent summer and make sure that we're not in this position again next season, because I do think, as mad as it sounds, I think there is hope there that next season could be a decent season with the right signings, with offloading the correct people and bringing in, a couple of new faces who can improve the squad, and giving Lampard that time on, a full summer of working with the squad. I do think that there's, rightly or wrongly, I've got a bit of hope for next season. So that's where I am with it. I don't know. What about you? I mean, obviously that was instant and the way you felt, but how are you feeling about it now?
Same. Honestly, no, I'm not ashamed to admit that the same. I've had a smile on my face for days, and it's not really been like that. I get what you're saying, that going into Goodison Park has been different, and even watching the away games, that Leicester game, watching that was something else, wasn't it? And we all wished we were in that away end, and that's not really been the case this season. There's been times we've said to each other, thank God we're not in that away end, because the poor sods have got 4-hour journey back or whatever, and God love them. They're a much better supporter than me. But yeah, I've been smiling since, and it's not something I'm ashamed of. I was on the pitch on Thursday night. If anyone's seen our Instagram, Judge had done a quick video from the pitch, and then myself and I was sitting next to one of our mates, Gaz, on Thursday, and it was just electric. And I get the banter. I get where it comes from, and I love the banter. I love when the Reds say, "Oh, it was 16th and stuff," but you never will, because you're that sort of club anyway. You'll never go through what we've just been through there, and that outpouring of emotion and relief is what football is all about. Where you love your club to the depths that we love our football club, and like you're staring into the abyss, and without getting, without getting really, really into the weeds here. If you've just basically seen Everton's finances and you've read a couple of stories about FFP, then don't go any further, because that's all you need to know. We were staring into the abyss. If this football club did go down, see Coventry, see Portsmouth, see Sunderland, see Leeds for 20-odd years, it would have been a fire sale. The owner would have walked, because the fan protests that have sort of gone away, they would have reared their head, rightly or wrongly, would have reared their head right again to a situation where he wouldn't have been able to stay. So to get over the line on Thursday night, and don't forget, Everton went 2-0 up in 30 minutes and then scored another on 70. It was the way that game went for me, Pricey, to watch the way. Only Everton could go in 2-0 down and then win 3-2 to stay up. We've seen it before as young boys, haven't we? And it was proper Everton.
But going in 2-0 down, but looking like there was literally no way back in it. They looked defeated. They were coming off the pitch, and they just looked like there was no chance at all whatsoever. And it was that. It weren't the fact that it was 2-0 and Palace had scored a little lucky goal and we were attacking and we hit the post, or we were in the game. We were completely out the game. Yeah. We were dead and buried. And then to come out and then you've got sorry Phil, just 2 seconds, and then you've got coming out, and then you say the fans took them over the line. Fans did massive part to play, but you've got to say fair play to the players for coming out and giving it a go, because they came out with a bit of intensity about them that they didn't have in the first half. And I know the crowd have got something to do with that, but so have the players. And you got to, we've had a go at them all season, and rightly so, because at times they've been terrible. But credit where credit's due, they turned it around when they had to. And I just hope that it doesn't mean that the certain players that are good enough and you want to keep the squad together for next season. We definitely need to have a clear out and bring new players in. But I just hope the mood. I hope that there's. If you want to, you can protest about certain stuff still at the club, and you can have a go at why are we in this position, and you can look at it. And obviously there will be a post-mortem by the management team, but I just hope the positivity goes into next season, and we just ride it. We just, draw, as fans I'm talking about here, draw a line and just don't wonder too much about what happened. Let's just hope that we move on in the summer and we continue with positivity. That's all I want to do. That's all I will hope for next season, the start of next season to be. Just
on that note, Price, we did get a social media question, so it's probably a good one to... I know you've just sort of indicated what your opinion is, but just to address it, someone called Carl on Twitter. He said, "Hi lads, when does the inquest to this atrocious Everton season begin, and when will we see the changes at the levels of the club needed to not go through this again?" Is it as simple as for you? I mean, I'll briefly say, look, I agree with you. You were on the podcast 2 weeks ago saying you can't keep protesting over the same things. I think if it goes wrong again, I'd welcome it. I agree with what you said 2 weeks ago. You can't keep protesting about the past. There's got to be a full stop. But at the same time, is Carl right there? Does it still need addressing, or it's just time to get behind it? The change is already made, and let's see how that goes.
I think it does need addressing, but I think it's being addressed, isn't it? I feel like, and this is just my own opinion, I feel like it is being addressed. I feel like the fact that they brought in a new director of football, a new manager who was not just a new manager, but a new young, hungry manager who gets the fans, who sort of, he's a modern manager, isn't he? Not only in terms of how Everton play, but how his media trade and everything like that. So, and they're doing a review of the club. You got David Unsworth left. So you've obviously that's not a coincidence that he's left at the time he's left. So obviously they're looking at the whole structure. So I feel like they are looking at it and they are trying to change. I mean, if we go into the summer and the signings that we make are terrible signings, and we bring in people like Rondon again and disrespect, but Townsend and them type of signings again, and then you can have a look at where are we again here? But I feel like they are making a change and they are trying to make positive steps, and that's all you can do. It's not going to happen overnight.
How's the FFP going to affect summer transfer?
I think we'd definitely have to sell to buy, I think, from what I've read. But I think we've got assets who you can sell, and I'm not saying that. I'm bringing in young, hungry players and players who aren't going to cost a fortune, but the right profile of player. That's what I want to see us signing. I don't want to see us spending millions and millions on players who just haven't got the heart and soul to play. I want to see us bringing in maybe players from the Championship or good Premier League players who we can pick up and adapt. That's what I want to see. And as long as the policy's there and you can see it's joined up, you can see what they're trying to do. Because my issue over the last few years is it's just been scattergun approach to signings. As long as you can see what they're trying to do, if it's a certain profile of player, then I'll be happy.
And that's where Brands failed, isn't it? Because regardless of 2 or 3 managers under Brands, we never saw an identity. We never saw at least the youth team coaches is getting it right, and at least as players breaking through. So for me, that's absolutely spot on. Phil, similar to how I tagged Pricey in to talk about the Reds, you must have been watching Everton on Thursday night. What were you thinking? Were you seeing Everton 2-0 down, getting Moretti out, or?
Like the Reds are going to slaughter me for this, but I'm not the most anti-blue Red out there, to be honest. I think it'd be hilarious if you would have went down, but I don't like the idea of Everton disappearing, which, as you mentioned before, would have been a real threat. And I think, if that happens, it's sort of funny when it happens, but like in 10 years' time, 15 years' time, we're talking to the new generation, you'd be telling them what it used to be like when both teams were in the league, and I think you'd say it was a better time. I personally believe that, and the Reds go, no, it wouldn't. I'd be made up if they were gone forever and all that. But I don't necessarily share that. I like the idea of perpetual misery for Everton. 16th to every season. I'll take that.
I love the way you've just completely answered a different question to what I asked you. You've just gone on your own script to try and dig us.
What was the question?
Right, so let me try and get it. I'll try and word it a bit differently. When you see 2-0 Palace, were you thinking Everton were gone?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and I thought Lampard was tactically quite inept in that first half. I think Calvert-Lewin mentions it in his post-match press conference. He literally said what went wrong in the first half, and he said the formation. Yeah. Obviously, he changed the shape in the second half, and it was. Do you know what? I was actually starting to really enjoy the game. Just like the fierce competitiveness that Everton brought to them was like it made for enjoyable watching. To be fair, and I think any neutral watching that game probably would have been rooting for Everton with the fight that they showed, but certainly weren't rooting for Everton. But I enjoyed the game. But I think Frank Lampard always been sort of tactically naive a few times now, hasn't he? And,
yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
But I think it's been a case of you just have to stay up. Do you know what I mean? I think that there's definitely been a couple of situations where you think he could have changed this and that, but I think he's found a formation that worked a few times. So if it hasn't worked once or hasn't worked for half a game, he hasn't just ripped it up and said he's sort of stuck to it, which I think fair play to him. I think I can't see him doing wing backs and all that next season because I don't think that's how he wants us to play. I'm reading about Chelsea. He stumbled upon 3 at the back of Chelsea and kept it until they weren't successful anymore and then changed it. So I think you're right. I think he has been found wanting a little bit in certain situations, but I think there's been enough there from him to see the light. And I think even with players, I think he spotted, players that we've sort of and the fans have not been too keen on, and he sort of spotted that and brought them out the team quite quickly. Whereas other managers persevered with them, and that's the type of thing that I think he's done quite well. But yeah, we'll see what happens next season. But Mills, I just want to ask you. I know you got quite. I think I was looking at questions about Judgy called the Everton players heroes at the end of the game and stuff, and I'm not saying whether I agree with that or not. But how are you seeing the players now? Then, so are you seeing them as shithouses who should have played that way all season, or are you seeing them as players who fair play to them, they turned it on when they had to?
Do you know what? Funny enough, I was thinking about this driving home, because the question was, someone's. So let me just get the question up. Sorry. So Steve, he's a Liverpool fan, but he's one of our loyal listeners. So thanks for your question, Steve. And it doesn't seem in jest. It was instant match reaction. The Blues described the players as heroes. At what point did this squad of players turn from cowards to heroes? Which is similar to what Pricey's just asked me. Judge, you replied by referencing was it a Bowie song, Pricey, you referenced?
Yeah, Heroes by Bowie. Heroes just for the day.
Just for the day. And I was thinking about this. I was thinking about this driving home because I knew it had come up. Just to flip it back on you, Pricey, in 1994, when that team stayed up on the last game of the season, they nearly went down by November. It was still the same core of players, wasn't it? We had to bring Big Joe in. In 1998, when he stayed up on the Coventry game, it took Kevin Campbell to come in some 7 months later to save them. I think they're your examples. That's what you've got to look at. Yes, okay, this game against Crystal Palace and the 11, 12, 13 who contributed will now be side by side with Wimbledon and Coventry, and everybody will always have memories of the emotion of being at that game. Is the Wimbledon game, the Coventry game, or the Crystal Palace game the best game I've ever been to? No, neither three way. I never ever want to go through it again, but they're in my heart because of what players showed for a small period of time. But if you remove yourself from that, or you try and remove yourself from that, and you look at those examples of 94 and 98, I think it still needs... If someone could press a reset button on it, I will still press it. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I agree. I'd change it. I think they've let us down too many times to think that the last few weeks is the real Everton or the real players that they are. I think I've read about it, or people have touched upon it. Seamus Coleman speaking to Lampard and stuff and saying, I think there's just a really bad mood at Everton, and you sort of sense it, or you sensed it. And I think the players have got a party to blame for that. But if you go to work every day and the atmosphere is down, and you don't get on with the manager, or there's different managers coming in, and there's not that continuity there. Not that I can't. I do blame the players, but you can understand it to a certain extent. If every day it's negative and they're going in, it's hard to get yourself out of it. And if to take a new manager coming in and seeing it and getting the best out of players, I'm thinking of Iwobi in particular, Delph, I suppose, when he came in, and he's getting the best out of these players who just needed that different type of management. Then I can see it both sides, but I think you've let us down far too much, the players in the past, and fair play to them for coming out of it. But I think overall, I'm the same as you. I think there's 9 or 10 players in that squad who I wouldn't. Well,
Something I'd say, like retrospectively and looking forward, is that the way you could use the narrative that look at the fight they showed against Palace. Why haven't they done that every week? But that's not possible. Like, motivation's not constant, and you're also not in control of your motivation. Like when moments like that happen, you get the best out of yourself. It takes you to a different place. You can't do that every week, so you can't blame them that they haven't done that every week previously. You also can't expect it going forward. You can't say, well, they've done it then, so that's what we could be. That was a one-off. They found something that they won't be able to find ever again. They'll never.
It was the equivalent. Sorry, Bryce. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I'm not talking about I want them to play with that intensity every game. I just mean the games when they haven't shown anything at all is an issue. But I think it's not just the Palace game. I think they've shown a different level since the Burnley game when we got beat. I think that was the kick up the arse they needed, and I think they've been, the majority of the time, not all the time, the majority of the time since that game, I think they've shown a different side of themselves. And again, I think that goes back to the manager and his staff and the atmosphere that they've brought and the way they've turned the corner that way. But I'm not expecting the intensity of Palace every game, but I am disappointed in them that they haven't been able to raise the levels previously to somewhere where we'd expect from Everton. Because let's get it right, that squad shouldn't be fighting the relegation, no matter how bad we think they are. They're good enough to be at least mid-table. So the fact that they're down there is, they've got to. They're partly responsible, if not fully responsible, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think they've reacted to magnificent Everton fan groups doing what they've done. And Pricey, we were there Thursday. You put the kids down, and you see the coach coming in, and again, it was just you don't see that. I said to you, didn't I? If someone said to me last year, me and you would be there watching the Carlo Ancelotti Everton getting brought in like this, I'd say to you this time last year, we're about to win the fucking league here, because you just don't get that. The fans and the fans who turned up deserve so much credit, but the fan groups who have organised that, I know they got invited down to Goodison to meet the manager a couple of weeks back, and that's the least they deserve. But what I would say is that one. It's not cop-out behaviour, because you used to do it when you first and second.
Champions League.
I think when Hodgson was getting his bust with the FSG, you were all outside the court in London in last year's shirts, weren't you, crying? So it wasn't there then, Philip. Don't be rewriting history there, my friends. But what I will say, Price, is that you can't bank on that always being there. For me, there's going to be naturally moments next season. We come in this podcast and we're fucking fuming, and the large section of the fan base at points next season will be having disappointing times. So I think the characters in the dressing room have reacted well to that, but they can't guarantee that always being there. One big character, we've got another question here, and it goes back to there's videos that we've shared of the manager with Seamus Coleman in the dressing room after the game, quotes like he's one of the best players or one of the best people he's ever met. An article in The Athletic this week, and Lampard came out and said that on his first day, Seamus Coleman walked into his office, and it'll remain private what he said, but Lampard felt the burden that Seamus Coleman was carrying around. We've heard rumours, haven't we, that Coleman, when he signed his new deal, said to Brands, I don't want to be in a position to let this club down on the pitch and break him down. And we almost put him in that position. But the question from Liam is, question for the Blue Boys, is it time that Seamus now stood away from playing duties, maybe got a coaching ticket? It's obvious how highly thought of he is at the club, but we don't want to lose a club legend in the way we possibly will if it keeps declining. What do you think on that? Do you think it's possibly time for Seamus to call it a day? Is he going to be an adequate backup? What happens if we have to rely on him next season again for 30 games?
I think he's got one more season as long as he's a bit part player. I haven't seen enough Patterson because he's been injured and whatever else. But we played it perfectly with Baines when Luca Dean came in. I thought we done that perfectly. Baines started the season and Luca Dean sort of came in, and then all of a sudden, well, not all of a sudden, but over time, he took Baines' place, and that was as much as we all love Leighton Baines, that was accepted by everyone. We've seen him coming to his end. We've seen a good left back coming in who could take his place. Yeah. Baines would play the odd Carabao Cup or whatever, or he'd come on, last 20 or whatever he was doing, and it worked well, and that was ideal. And I think if we can put that situation in place for Coleman, with Patterson, providing Patterson's good enough, that's how I'd like to see it pan out next season. Coleman or one of them to start. Maybe Coleman starts the season, but Patterson comes in, and Patterson's got to be your right back for next season. He's got to be your ultimate first choice. As I say, maybe not the very start of the season, but definitely gradually come in. And after the first few games, he's playing more than he's not. And you save Coleman for your Carabao Cup games or your FA Cup games, or your games that, well, the league games are all important, aren't they? But you know what I'm getting at. I just think if we can do it the same way we've done Baines, I'd be happy. I think Coleman would be happy. I think fans would be happy. At the end of the season, we can give him a standing ovation last game of the season and clap him off, and he's done us proud, and that's the way I'd like to see it go with him. I don't think he's ready for putting, as a coach just yet. I think his personality around the playing squad is too important to do that just this early, I think.
Yeah, okay. We are going to tag in with Phil to preview very briefly the Champions League final. And we say briefly because there's announcements on what the Reds are doing for that. But before we do place one last blue question, friend of the show, Darren O'Day. And I know we probably will address this next week. Next week we are doing a full season review. So we're going to look back on the highs and lows. and possibly address this a little bit more in depth. But initially, Pricey, when I asked you this question, what comes to mind? So Darren says, what players would you keep hold of this summer? Is there anybody who we could now build around, or do we need a full change?
No, I think there's definitely players I'd want to keep. I mean, I'd want to keep Calvert-Lewin, me. And I know he hasn't had the best season because of injuries and his fitness and stuff like that. But I just think I think he was really good against Palace, and he was good the week before against Brentford as well. And he gives you something else, and them type of players are hard to find. Them number nines who can play like he can.
Could you see a team being built around him under Lampard? If Lampard did want to go to a new thing, could you see Lampard Calvert-Lewin being a big part of that?
Yeah, it could be. I could see that. Yeah, I think he fits the profile of what you'd expect Lampard to be going for, which is a young English type, player. I think he can. I think formation-wise, I think Lampard probably wants to play 4-3-3 eventually, and he could be a focal point up front with obviously two others. He's the player I'd like to keep. I think over them all. There's a couple of others, Richarlison. I wouldn't want to see let him go, and Ben Godfrey I wouldn't want to see let go. And I've got Michalenko Gordon, who are never going to go anywhere anyway. But I think Calvert-Lewin's the one who could potentially leave, but I'd like to keep. What about you? You'd let Calvert-Lewin go, would you? By the sounds of what you're saying.
I wouldn't 2 years ago, and by that I mean we're in a situation where we just wanted to, get better and better and better. I think, without going too deep into it, I think financially we probably do need to sell someone, and what you need to do there is you need to figure out who the cash cow is. Possibly it's the goalkeeper. I think you're at risk if you sell a goalkeeper as good as Jordan Pickford. I think this season we've absolutely missed Calvert-Lewin, and it's probably a large reason as to why we were where we were in going into May. We missed his goals, and he was great. There's no one really, and I say this trying to be as positive as I can. There's no one really in that team who I say you could build a team around. The closest to it would be Ben Godfrey. But again, if someone said to me, Tottenham have signed Ben Godfrey for £40 million, I certainly wouldn't be having,
you can't build a team around a defender, can you? I think if you're going to let one of them go, though, it's going to be Richarlison, and you're looking for to bring in some decent dough, or Calvert-Lewin, isn't it? So which one out of them, Mills, would you think?
I honestly think you're at risk of losing both. I think if Newcastle throw big money at Everton in a situation where the manager then says, and the director of football then says that this money will not only help, the books, but you'll get 70% of it to spend. And I think if Richarlison, despite him only scoring, 10, 11 goals this season, and he's probably never scored much more than that for Everton, I think his stock is high across Europe. He's the Brazil number 9, and he puts numbers on the board for Brazil. And I think if you're a Real Madrid with a manager who's worked with him, and you can figure out to get a deal for Richarlison, like I can see a situation, maybe Pricey can or can't. I can see a situation very, very easily where Everton lose both this summer.
Yeah, I can, and Richarlison is probably the one, as you say. Real Madrid now, they haven't got Mbappe. I'm not saying he's a replacement for Mbappe, but he is the type of player they're looking for. And as you say, Ancelotti, if he stays at Madrid, he's worked with him before, he knows his personality. And I'm saying I want to keep Calvert-Lewin. I'd like to keep Richarlison, but as you say, if we get good money for them, we reinvest it in the squad. I wouldn't be particularly upset with that, as long as as I said before, we reinvest in, and we've got a strategy, and it's not just a scattergun approach. So if we're selling and we're getting money invested in the right type of players, then I'm fine with that as well. Because we have got to rebuild on. I mean, you don't finish 16th and don't expect to rebuild. I think that's what we've got to do. And as you say, the cash cows are probably Richarlison, Calvert-Lewin, and Pickford. They're the three that we could get decent money for. And as I say, if we sold them and reinvested, that's fine. But I would like to keep Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah, that's fair. I was
going to say, you wouldn't sell them to reinvest it, would you? Like, otherwise you just wouldn't sell them. Really, you'd sell them to get straight with FFP. So I think
they'd be both. I think both. I think hypothetically, if Calvert-Lewin's got 60, I can see the manager getting 30 of that.
Yeah, hard to replace Calvert-Lewin with 30 mil, isn't it?
It's one of those things, isn't it? You once upon a time, I imagine, putting words in your mouth, thought Coutinho was hard to replace, and look what you've done with that money.
Yeah, it's possible. It is possible.
Go on, Pricey. You had your mouth open there, or you
No,
just...
I was just saying. It's a scouting network then, isn't it? Because you look at players like Tony for Brentford and stuff. He'd be a good replacement for and a lot cheaper. But it's just whether the scouting network's out there to get them, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Phil has been on the apron waiting for the hot tag to come in and close the show with a big boot leg drop. 1, 2, 3, Hulk Hogan style. Phil, we did say that there might not be a massive Champions League preview tonight. Tell us why.
Well, because me, Terry, and Gary are all going to Madrid, so we're going to do one live on the ferry, I think.
But the game's in Paris, so
we're just saying Madrid. Sorry, Paris, yeah. So we're going to do. I think our only chance to do a preview will be on the ferry because we're driving down there, get there quite late on the Friday, and then we'll be all over Paris and boozy and stuff on the Saturday. So I think we're going to do it on the ferry. We've got 4 hours to kill there. So yeah, I don't know how drunk we'll be at that stage. It might be a merry one, to be honest, but no, I'm sure we'll all be in a great mood. So yeah, that should be a good show. Looking forward to it.
All right, no, I imagine it'll go down well with the Reds, but we can't not have you on. We know you're thinking about it already. You've almost said that yesterday is gone. There's a full stop there. There's pressure on Saturday. How are you feeling? Are you excited? Are you nervous? Are you confident?
All three, definitely. I think the reality is, I don't want to be negative, but I think the reality is both sides could beat each other. They're a European superpower and they turn it on in Europe. I think man for man, if you look at the teams and the squads, I think we're definitely better than them. But it's not as simple as that. I think they're quite dangerous where we're quite vulnerable. Yeah. Vinicius can get it. He's very fast. I think we're sort of susceptible maybe to a little bit of pace in the wide areas, can hurt us, on the counter and stuff. So got to be very wary of that. And I think the likes of Henderson and Fabinho, they're switched on to all that when Trent goes forward. But, if the worst comes to worst and Fab's injured, doesn't make it, not quite fit enough, you're looking at Henderson, Keita, Milner, starting to worry then. You're starting to get worried. So I think I want to see that Fabinho's back fit. And if he is, I'm relatively confident. It's going to be a close game. It always is. Liverpool don't do it easy. If we're going to win, it'll be in a horrible way. Penalties, an own goal, an extra time. There'll be something like that because Liverpool always make finals hard work. So I know we're going to be put through the ringer again for sure.
I know. We should be in the final a couple of years ago. Do Liverpool tend to? What's the record like? Because I think history comes into these type of things as well, and how you've done against them in the past. Because, for example, if you went in and Man City was the team you're playing in the final, I think you'd be. Well, if I was a Liverpool fan, I'd be more confident because you've got a better record than not against Man City from my memory. So Real Madrid, I don't think you've got a very good record against Real Madrid, have you? Well,
we absolutely hammered them a few times in my recent memory under Brendan Rodgers. I'm sure there was a 4-0 and a 3-1 somewhere, but they beat us in the final, didn't they, in the other year, 2019, I think it was. And so, in more recent history, they've had one over us. But
they beat you last year as well. Was the quarterfinal last year? They beat you as well.
Yeah. In very recent history, they've had the better. So yeah, that could come into it psychologically, but psychologically as well, we owe them one. Like Ramos clotheslines, Salah or whatever he does, some wrestling move, wasn't it? So I think we definitely owe them one for that. But and I think the players Mo Salah talked about that. He was saying, I really want Spurs to beat Madrid to beat City in the semi because he wanted his own revenge. But you can be too hyped up. I think we're going to be very up for it. We want the revenge. We want we want to make up for what's happened in the league. But you can be too hyped up, and that's another little worry I've got. Like, it's not about being super hyped up and super keen to get revenge. You just need to be like professional, focused. Don't get carried away. Carry out what you're supposed to do with your tactics and everything. So, there's a lot on it. But yeah, come on, it's Liverpool in Europe. I've got every reason to be confident.
Don't blame you. I know what's going to happen. I absolutely know what's going to happen. And once I get paid on Wednesday, I'm putting a bet on penalties. Liverpool on penalties. Absolutely. But all jokes aside, all Reds who were going, to Paris. Safe trips. If you see Phil, if you see Teddy and Gary, go over and say hello
Not
as
to
always.
you. I've heard you're going over with the Madrid top and a bag of fireworks.
If it was any other team but yous, I'd be confident. I'd be absolutely confident. But like I said, I know what's going to happen. But no, I think the past few weeks, I mean, Blues as well and Reds, who had a lot of great feedback. A lot of people have seen us at the match and came over and said hello. So if you do see the lads over in Paris, by all means, go and say hello. The future of this show in the summer, we are going to be taking a little break for the summer with a big plan to come back next season, of course, for the 22-23 season. Before we do sign off next week, we will have a season review show, both sides, Blues and Reds, talking about what's just been and gone, whether it be domestic, whether it be Europe, best goal we scored, we seen, worst pint we had to the ground. It's all going to be covered in depth next week in a full season review. Phil's just said there's a massive Liverpool Champions League preview show coming out on Friday night, Saturday morning. I imagine if Liverpool do win a Champions League, there might be some impromptu videos as well coming from the celebrations at both Paris and possibly also in the city on the 29th as well. I'll be tagging in with Matt Jones, Tranmere fan, to do our regular Across the Mersey, looking at Tranmere. If any Blues or Reds are interested in knowing how Tranmere got on this season in depth, I'll be sitting down with Matt. But we are almost about to sign off on the 21-22 season. Ask Phil what he thinks next week, but for me, it's a season I never want to go through again. I want to put a full stop in it, and I've seen Liverpool win the league. I am up to there with football. I'm looking forward to a break. Pricey, are you?
Yeah, much needed break, mate. Tell you that now.
Thank you to everybody who has took part in the 21-22 season. 3 or possibly more shows, and then we are out. Enjoy the final, Reds, Blues. Enjoy having some sleep. See you again next week.